The war room fell silent as the hologram flickered and died. 3 more worlds had gone dark. 3 more billion souls consumed by the swarm. The alien commanders stood around the table, their various faces showing the same emotion, fear. Commander of the Coalition pressed her 4-fingered hand against the dead controls. Her blue skin had turned pale. "That makes 15 worlds in 2 months," she said quietly. "At this rate, we have 6 months before they reach the core systems." The other commanders shifted nervously. General Vex, a massive creature covered in thick armor plates, slammed his fist on the table. "We need more soldiers, more ships. Where are the reinforcements?" "There are no more reinforcements," replied. "Every species in the Coalition has sent everything they have. We're fighting on 40 fronts across 12 sectors. We're losing on all of them." An old archivist named shuffled forward. He was small and gray, with large eyes that had seen too many wars. "There might be one option," he said carefully. "The ancient records mention a species that fought in the old wars 400 years ago. They were called Terrans, humans." The room erupted in noise. Half the commanders laughed. The other half looked confused. "Humans are myths," Vex growled. "Stories we tell children, they don't exist." Shook his head. "The records are clear. Humans were real. They fought in the frontier wars against the first swarm invasion. The archives say they were terrifying warriors. The swarm retreated from their space and never returned." "Then where are they now?" asked. "Why haven't we heard from them in 4 centuries?" "They isolated themselves," said. He pulled up an old star chart. A small section of space was marked in red. This was their territory. After the wars, they cut off all contact. Their worlds disappeared from our maps. Most species forgot they existed." Vex laughed again. "So we're supposed to believe that some ancient species is hiding in a corner of space, waiting to save us. This is foolish." But stared at the map. She had no other options, no hope left. "Send a probe," she ordered. "Send it to those coordinates. If humans are still there, tell them we need their help." The probe launched 3 days later. It traveled for weeks through empty space, following coordinates that were 400 years old. Most of the Coalition forgot about it. They were too busy fighting and dying. Then one morning, something appeared in orbit around the Coalition's main command station. Not the probe, it had been intercepted. Instead, 3 ships hung in space, dark and angular, unlike any design the Coalition used. They were clearly warships covered in weapons and armor. Old weapons, old armor. The communications channel crackled to life. A face appeared on the screen. It was human, there was no doubt. 2 eyes, flat face, strange hair growing from the head. The being looked tired, with lines around his eyes and mouth. "I am Captain Menu of the Terran Defense Corps, commanding the 203rd Expeditionary Force," the human said. His voice was calm and deep. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." Rushed to the command deck, she stared at the human on the screen. "You're real," she whispered. "Humans are real." Menu's expression didn't change. "We've always been real, you just forgot about us." Within hours, the human ships docked at the station, waited at the airlock with her command staff. When the door opened, she saw them for the first time. Humans were smaller than most Coalition species. They looked soft, with no natural armor or weapons. They wore simple combat gear, carrying weapons that looked ancient, metal tubes that fired solid projectiles instead of energy beams. Counted only 200 soldiers total. 200 soldiers to fight a war that was consuming the galaxy. Captain Menu stepped forward first. He was tall for a human, with dark hair cut short and eyes that seemed to see everything. Behind him came a female human with sharp features and quick movements, Lieutenant, his second in command. Then a younger male named, who looked around the station with wide eyes. "This is your entire force?" General Vex asked, unable to hide his disappointment. "This is the first wave," Menu replied. "More will come if we succeed." If, Vex laughed, you bring 200 soldiers with primitive weapons to fight a war against trillions of swarm creatures, and you say if. Stepped forward, her eyes were cold. Our weapons work just fine, you'll see. A female human in different clothing approached. She had a softer face, kinder eyes. I am Ambassador, she said. I apologize for my people's long absence. We had reasons for isolating ourselves, but we don't abandon others in need. Wanted to believe her, but she looked at the small group of humans with their old weapons and felt her hope dying. Thank you for coming, she said politely. We'll find you quarters and brief you on the situation. The briefing lasted 3 hours. The humans listened in silence as coalition commanders explained the swarm's tactics, their numbers, their unstoppable advance. Holographic images showed worlds being consumed, fleets being destroyed. The humans watched it all without expression. Finally, Minu spoke. Where do you need us? Need you? Vex scoffed. You're 200 soldiers with old weapons. Where could we possibly use you? On the front lines, Minu said simply, where the fighting is hardest. The room went quiet, studied the human captain. His face showed no fear, no doubt, just calm determination. The front lines are a death sentence, she said carefully. We're losing every battle. Entire divisions are being wiped out. If we send you there, you'll die, all of you. Minu glanced at his soldiers, nodded, straightened his shoulders. The others showed no fear. We know, Minu said. Send us anyway. Vex leaned forward. You're legends from a forgotten age. This is a modern war with modern enemies. Your time has passed. Minu's eyes grew cold. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but hard as steel. Then let us show you what legends do to modern nightmares. Made her decision. There's a world called Prime on the front lines. Industrial world, 3 billion people. The swarm is attacking it now. Our forces are being overrun. We're preparing to evacuate. Don't evacuate, Minu said. Send us there, we'll hold the line. You can't possibly, Vex started to say. We can, interrupted, and we will. The humans left the briefing room and returned to their ships. Watched them go, feeling a strange mix of hope and sadness. They seemed so confident, so sure. But she had seen what the swarm could do. 200 soldiers, no matter how brave, couldn't stop the tide. Still, as the human ships powered up and jumped toward Prime, found herself praying to old gods she didn't believe in anymore. Maybe, just maybe, the legends were true. Maybe humans really were different. She would find out soon enough. The swarm never waited long. And deep in space, aboard his ship, Captain Minu checked his weapons one more time. Beside him did the same. Behind them, 200 Terran soldiers prepared for battle. They had been isolated for 4 centuries. The galaxy had forgotten them, dismissed them as myths and old stories. That was about to change. The legends were coming back, and the swarm would remember why it had stayed away from human space for 400 years. They would remember why they had always feared the humans most of all. Prime burned. From orbit, Captain Minu could see the fires spreading across the northern continent. Black smoke rose into the atmosphere where the swarm had landed. Millions of bioforms swarmed across the surface like insects, consuming everything in their path. Coalition forces are retreating from the capital city, Lieutenant reported. She studied the tactical display with focused eyes. They're taking heavy casualties. Command estimates the planet will fall within 6 hours. Minu nodded slowly. Show me where the defensive line is breaking. A red zone appeared on the map. The coalition had established defenses around the main spaceport, trying to evacuate civilians before the city fell. But the swarm was pushing through from 3 directions, overwhelming them with sheer numbers. That's where we go, Minu said. Young looked up from his station. Sir, the coalition commanders are ordering a full retreat. They say the position can't be held. Then it's good we don't take orders from them, Minu replied. He opened the ship-wide channel. All units prepare for combat drop. We're going into the hot zone. The human ships descended through the fire and smoke. Coalition transport craft rushed past them, fleeing the surface. Alien voices filled the communication channels, screaming warnings and panic. The swarm was everywhere. Minu's transport touched down in the middle of chaos. The spaceport was a war zone. Alien soldiers ran in all directions, firing wildly at the approaching swarm. Officers shouted orders that nobody followed. Wounded lay everywhere, crying out in pain. The rear door of the transport opened. Minu stepped out, followed by his soldiers. They moved with calm precision, spreading out and taking positions. Their weapons looked primitive compared to the energy rifles the aliens carried, but the humans handled them with practiced ease. A coalition officer ran up to Minu. His armor was scorched and cracked. "You need to leave. Everyone is leaving. The swarm is coming." "We know," Minu said. "We're staying." "You'll die." "Maybe." Minu looked toward the smoke and fire in the distance. "But they'll die first." The coalition officer stared at him like he was insane, then ran toward an evacuation ship. Joined Minu, scanning the battlefield. "The swarm will hit us from the east in approximately 4 minutes. Estimate 2,000 bioforms in the first wave." "Good," Minu said. "Let them come." He turned to his soldiers. 200 humans stood ready, calm in the chaos around them. "You know the mission. Hold this line. Don't let a single swarm creature past us. The civilians behind us need time to evacuate." The soldiers nodded. No questions, no doubts. A massive human stepped forward, carrying a weapon nearly as large as himself. "Sir, where do you want the heavy weapons?" "Center position. Take the left flank with squad, I'll take the right." They moved into position. The remaining coalition soldiers watched in confusion as humans set up their defenses. One alien soldier, wounded and unable to evacuate, sat against a wall nearby. He saw a human medic approaching, a female named. "Stay still," said gently. She examined his wounds with quick, expert hands. "You'll be okay." "You should run," the alien gasped. "Save yourselves." Smiled as she worked. "Humans don't run, not from this." A human named set up strange equipment near the defensive line. "Got their bio-network mapped," he called out. "I can disrupt their coordination when they get close." Minu checked his weapons one final time. 2 plasma blades hung at his sides, an old kinetic rifle in his hands. Simple, reliable, deadly. The ground began to shake. "Here they come," said calmly. The swarm emerged from the smoke like a living wave. Creatures of nightmare, twisted bioforms with too many limbs, covered in chitinous armor, moving with horrible speed. They made sounds like screaming metal. Their eyes glowed with alien intelligence. 2,000 of them rushed toward the human line. The coalition soldiers who remained watched in horror. The humans were going to be slaughtered. "Fire," Minu ordered. The sound was deafening, not the high-pitched whine of energy weapons, but the thunderous roar of kinetic rifles firing solid rounds at supersonic speeds. The effect was immediate and brutal. Swarm creatures exploded as metal rounds punched through their armor. The aliens' energy shields were useless against simple physical projectiles. Row after row of bioforms fell, torn apart by weapons the coalition considered primitive. Its heavy weapon opened up with a sound like continuous thunder. Each round was the size of a human fist. Where it hit, swarm creatures simply ceased to exist, blown into pieces. "Left flank adjust fire 30 degrees, called out. Her squad responded instantly, cutting down a group of creatures trying to flank them. Fired in controlled bursts, his young face set in grim determination. "They're not slowing down." "They never do," replied. "Keep firing." The swarm crashed into the human defensive line like a wave hitting a rock. But the rock didn't break. Human soldiers fought with a ferocity that stunned the watching aliens. When swarm creatures got too close, the humans didn't panic. They pulled out blades, axes, even fought with their bare hands. Minyu found himself surrounded by 4 bioforms. His plasma blades ignited, glowing bright in the smoke. He moved like water, impossibly fast, cutting through chitin and flesh. The creatures died without touching him. Activated his equipment. The swarm's coordinated attack suddenly fell apart as their bio-network was disrupted. Creatures crashed into each other, confused, easy targets. "It's working," shouted, "but I can only maintain it for 2 more minutes." "That's enough," Minyu replied, cutting down another creature. Moved through the battlefield like a ghost, dragging wounded soldiers, both human and alien, back to safety. Energy blasts and bioacid splashed around her, but she never stopped. A massive swarm warrior lunged at her, shot it 3 times, dropping it at her feet. "Thanks," called out. "Don't mention it," replied, already firing at the next target. The battle raged for 20 minutes. To the coalition soldiers watching, it felt like hours. They had never seen anything like it. Humans fought without fear, without hesitation. When they ran out of ammunition, they used blades. When their blades broke, they used whatever they could find. They simply refused to stop. Slowly, impossibly, the swarm wave began to break. Minyu stood in the center of carnage, covered in dark alien blood, still fighting. Around him, his soldiers held the line. Not one swarm creature had gotten past them. The last bioform fell. Silence descended on the battlefield. Walked up beside Minyu, checking her weapon. "First wave is down. Second wave in 20 minutes. "Good," Minyu said. "That gives us time to reload." The coalition soldiers emerged from their hiding spots, staring in disbelief. The spaceport was covered in dead swarm creatures. The humans had killed them all. 200 soldiers had stopped 2,000 bioforms. Human casualties, 7 wounded, none dead, was already treating the wounded. The alien soldier that had helped earlier stumbled forward. "How?" he whispered. "How did you do that?" Minyu looked at him with tired eyes. "This is what humans do. We fight, we endure, we win." Another coalition transport landed. Commander stepped out, her face shocked. She had come to recover the bodies of the brave humans who had sacrificed themselves. Instead, she found them standing victorious in a field of dead enemies. "You held the line," she said, unable to believe it. "We said we would," Minyu replied simply. "Join them. Commander, we need more ammunition, and if you have any coffee, we'd appreciate it." Laughed, though she felt like crying. "You're insane, all of you." "Probably," Minyu agreed, "but we're effective." News of the battle spread through the coalition fleet instantly. Footage showed human soldiers standing in literal fire, still fighting. The galaxy watched in shock as old legends became reality. The swarm launched 4 more waves at Prime that day. Each time, the humans held their ground. By nightfall, the spaceport was still secure. All civilians had been evacuated. Human casualties, 15 wounded, 3 dead. Swarm casualties, estimated 12,000 bioforms. That night sat with other soldiers, cleaning his weapon. "Sir," he said to Minyu, "the aliens are afraid of us now. I can see it in their eyes." "Good," Minyu replied. "Fear is honest. They needed to see what humans really are." Looked up at the stars. "The swarm will remember this. They'll remember why they stayed away from us for 400 years. Minyu nodded. "Let them remember. Let the whole galaxy remember. Humans aren't myths. We're not legends from old stories. We're here, we're real, and we don't surrender." Somewhere in orbit, coalition commanders watched the footage again and again. General Vex, who had laughed at the humans, now sat in silence. He had been wrong, terribly wrong. Humans weren't weak. They weren't outdated. They were the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. And they had only just arrived. 3 weeks after Prime, everything changed. The Coalition High Command made an official request. They wanted human tactical advisors for every major battle group. They wanted to learn how humans fought. Lieutenant stood in a training facility, facing 200 alien soldiers from 6 different species. They looked at her with mixed expressions: curiosity, doubt, some fear. She was small compared to most of them, but they had all seen the footage from Prime. "We're going to teach you how humans fight," said. Her voice carried across the room. "Not our weapons, not our technology, our mindset." A large alien officer raised his hand. "What's wrong with our mindset?" "You fight to survive," replied. "We fight to win, there's a difference." She activated a holographic display. It showed a human soldier running through fire, carrying a wounded comrade. "Humans prepare for war differently. We don't just train our bodies or memorize tactics. We train our minds to handle things you think are impossible." Over the next week, put them through human training methods: long runs carrying heavy equipment, combat drills in extreme heat and cold, mental exercises to build resilience. Most of the aliens couldn't keep up at first, but slowly they began to understand. "Pain is temporary," told them during one brutal exercise. "Quitting is permanent, push through it." Meanwhile, Commander observed human soldiers during their downtime. She expected them to rest, to recover from their battles. Instead, she found them in the common areas, singing strange songs, telling stories, laughing together. She approached Captain Minu, who sat with a group of his soldiers. "Captain, your people have been in constant combat for weeks. Don't they need rest?" Minu looked at his soldiers. Young was laughing at something had said, was teaching an alien medic about human field medicine. "This is how we rest," Minu explained. "We stay connected. We remember what we're fighting for, each other." "Your species is strange," said, but she smiled. "Maybe," Minu agreed, "but it works." News came that changed everything. The Swarm was launching a major offensive against Seven, an agricultural world that fed billions. If it fell, entire sectors would face starvation. The Coalition wanted to establish a defensive perimeter and fight a traditional battle. Minu had a different idea. "We burn the crops," he said at the strategy meeting. The room exploded in angry voices. General Vex slammed his fists down. "Are you insane? Those crops are why we're defending the planet." "Those crops are why the Swarm is attacking," Minu countered. "They need biomass to grow their forces. We deny them that resource." "You want us to destroy our own world," an alien admiral demanded. "I want you to win," Minu said coldly. "Burn a third of the crops now, save the rest later, or lose everything when the Swarm takes the whole planet." The Coalition commanders refused. Minu's expression didn't change. "Then my forces will do it alone." He took 50 human soldiers and headed to Seven. Followed, unable to stop him, unwilling to let him go alone. On the planet's surface, Minu's team moved through the vast agricultural fields. A human named, carrying a long-range rifle, spotted Swarm scouts in the distance. "Target confirmed. Swarm coordinators 3 kilometers out." "Can you hit them?" Minu asked. Smiled, "Watch me." The rifle barely made a sound. 3 kilometers away, Swarm creatures fell, their heads exploding. The other creatures around them scattered in confusion. "How is that possible?" asked Stunned. "Holds the longest confirmed kill in human military history," explained. 6.2 kilometers. These shots are easy for her. Another human set up communications equipment. "Ready to broadcast," he reported. "What are you broadcasting?" asked. Smile was cold. "Psychological warfare." He activated the equipment. Across all Swarm communication frequencies, human voices began to speak. Battle cries in dozens of human languages, war drums beating, recordings of Swarm defeats played back at them, the sounds of human soldiers singing as they marched into battle. The Swarm advance hesitated. For the first time since the war began, they seemed uncertain. "You're scaring them," whispered. "Good," Minyu replied. "Fear is a weapon too." The humans moved through the field systematically, setting controlled fires that would destroy the crops but not spread to civilian areas. Swarm forces tried to stop them but found themselves confused and disorganized. Its rifle sang its deadly song, taking down coordinators before they could reorganize their forces. Broadcasts made them hesitate, second-guess, fear. When swarm forces did attack, they met human soldiers ready and waiting. Its heavy weapon tore through bioforms, hacked into their bio-network, turning their own coordination against them. And his squad fought with the precision of veterans, though they were young. Moved between battles, saving both human and alien wounded. She worked without rest, her hands steady, her voice calm. "You're going to be fine," she told a terrified alien soldier. "I won't let you die." The battle lasted 3 days. The swarm threw thousands of bioforms at the human positions, but the humans held, and the burned fields the swarm the resources they needed. On the 3rd day, coalition reinforcements arrived. They found the humans still standing, exhausted but unbroken. 1/3 of the crops were burned, but 2/3 remained safe. The swarm, unable to gain the biomass they needed, retreated. Walked through the battlefield afterward, seeing the impossible made real. 50 human soldiers had stopped a swarm force estimated at 30,000 bioforms. She found Minyu sitting on an equipment crate, cleaning his weapons. "You did it," she said, "again." "We did what was necessary," Minyu replied. "That's the first lesson of human warfare. Do what you must, not what you want." "Is that why you fight so differently from us?" asked. "Why you're willing to do things we find horrifying?" Minyu looked up at her. His eyes were tired but clear. "Commander, your species fights with logic, with strategy, with cold calculation. Humans fight with everything we have, our minds, our bodies, our emotions. That's our advantage." "General Vex called you demons," said quietly. "After seeing what you did here, he's afraid of you." "He should be," said, joining them. "We're the most dangerous thing in this galaxy when we need to be." "But you're also the kindest," countered. She gestured to where was still treating wounded soldiers, both human and alien. "You save us even as you terrify us." Minyu smiled for the first time in days. "That's what makes us human. We feel everything: fear, anger, compassion, love, and we use all of it." Approached, his young face serious. "Sir, Coalition Command wants to know our methods. They want to train their soldiers the human way." "Tell them we'll help," Minyu said. "But they need to understand, it's not just about tactics. It's about mindset. It's about being willing to walk through fire because someone behind you needs you to." News of Seven spread even faster than Prime. The galaxy watched as 50 human soldiers defeated 30,000 swarm bioforms through strategy, precision, and psychology. Military academies began studying human combat doctrine. Alien soldiers started training with human methods. But the most important change was in the swarm itself. For the first time in the war, swarm forces began avoiding areas where humans were stationed. Intelligence reports showed the swarm was analyzing human tactics, trying to find weaknesses. "They're afraid of us," reported to Minyu. "My psychological analysis of their communication patterns shows clear signs of fear." "How is that possible?" an alien intelligence officer asked. "The swarm doesn't feel fear. It's a hive mind." "Everything that can think can fear," Minyu said, "and the swarm remembers. 400 years ago, we nearly destroyed them. They stayed away from human space because they learned to fear us. Now they're remembering why." That night, Minyu sat with his core team, and they had been fighting for a month without real rest. They looked tired, worn, but their eyes still burned with determination. "The war isn't over," said. "The swarm is regrouping. They'll come back stronger." "Let them," said, checking his massive weapon. "We'll be ready." looked at his older companions. Do you think we can really win this war? Minyu put a hand on the young soldier's shoulder. Humans have been fighting impossible wars since we learned to stand upright. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, extinction events. We've fought our way up from caves to the stars. The swarm is just another impossible enemy. And we always beat impossible enemies, added softly. Somewhere in deep space, swarm hive ships gathered. They analyzed the human threat, calculated probabilities, prepared new strategies. The ancient memories in their collective consciousness whispered warnings about the species called human. But they were the swarm, they consumed worlds. They had destroyed 1,000 civilizations. They would adapt. They would overcome. Or so they believed. They didn't understand the most important thing about humans, the thing that made them truly dangerous. Humans didn't just fight to survive. They didn't fight because they had to. They fought because someone needed protecting, and humans never stopped fighting when someone needed protecting. The swarm would learn this lesson again, just as they had 400 years ago. Some lessons, it seemed, had to be taught twice. The briefing room was silent as the hologram displayed the burning reach. It was a region of space near a dying star, where radiation levels were so high that most life couldn't survive for more than a few hours. The perfect place to hide something important. Coalition intelligence has confirmed it, Commander said quietly. The swarm's central hive mind nexus is here, deep in the burning reach. It coordinates all swarm forces across 12 sectors. Captain Minyu studied the display. Billions of swarm bioforms surrounded the nexus. The radiation made sensors unreliable. The environment was lethal. It was, in short, suicide. "What's the plan?" he asked. General Vex stepped forward. For once, he wasn't mocking the humans. He looked tired, defeated. There is no plan. No coalition species can survive in that environment long enough to fight. Our ships can transport a strike team in, but they can't stay. You'd have to destroy the nexus and get out before the radiation kills you. "How long do we have?" Lieutenant asked. 6 hours maximum, an alien scientist said. "After that, even your human biology will fail." Minyu nodded slowly. "We'll do it." Captain said carefully, "This is a death mission. Even if you destroy the Nexus, getting out alive is almost impossible. I can't ask you to." "You didn't ask," Minyu interrupted. "We volunteered, it's what we do." Within hours, Minyu had assembled his strike team. And a human named who specialized in infiltration, plus 42 more volunteers, 50 humans total for a mission that would kill them all. Another human joined them, a demolitions expert with a reputation for crazy ideas. He carried the singularity bomb that would destroy the Nexus. "This baby will create a black hole," he explained, patting the device affectionately. "Nothing survives, including us probably." "Probably?" asked. Shrugged. "I mean definitely, but I like to stay optimistic." The Coalition provided transport ships with heavy shielding. They could survive the burning reach for maybe 30 minutes before their systems failed. Minyu's team loaded their equipment in silence. Every soldier knew this was likely a one-way trip. Approached Minyu before departure. "Captain, I want you to know what you're doing, what all humans have done in this war, we'll never forget. If you succeed, you'll have saved billions of lives." "Commander," Minyu said quietly, "humans don't do this for glory or memory. We do it because it's right." The journey into the burning reach was nightmare. The dying star bathed everything in sickly orange light. Radiation warnings screamed constantly. Ship systems flickered and failed. The heat was unbearable even through the shielding. "Transport 1 to Minyu," a pilot's voice crackled over the damaged communications. "We're at the drop point. You have 6 hours starting now. Good luck." The humans jumped from the ships into the void, using propulsion packs to navigate through the debris field surrounding the Nexus. Behind them, the transport ships fled. their hulls already melting from the radiation. Led them through the maze of dead swarm ships and asteroids. Her movements were precise, silent. She had trained for infiltration missions like this her entire life. "Target ahead," she whispered. "That's the Nexus." It was massive, a living structure grown from organic material, pulsing with bioluminescence. Millions of swarm drones crawled over its surface like ants. At its center, buried deep, was the hive mind that controlled them all. "We'll never fight through all of them," whispered. "We don't have to," replied. "Steam creates a distraction. The rest of us go through the maintenance tunnels." It was a desperate plan, but desperate was all they had. The infiltration team moved first. They planted explosives on the Nexus's outer defenses. When the charges detonated, thousands of swarm drones responded, swarming toward the threat. "Go," commanded. Minu's main team rushed through a side entrance, running through organic corridors that pulsed like living flesh. The Nexus was alive, aware of their presence. Bioforms appeared from every direction, screeching and attacking. Heavy weapon roared, swarm creatures exploded. "Keep moving," he shouted. Picked off targets from distance, her rifle singing its deadly song. Every shot was perfect. Every shot killed. Broadcast disruption signals directly into the Nexus's bionetwork, causing chaos. Worked his technical magic, his hands flying over his equipment. "I'm in their system, I can see their data." He went pale. "Oh no, oh no, no, no." "What is it?" Minu demanded, cutting down a bioform. "The swarm has ancient data about humans," said, his voice shaking. "From 400 years ago. Captain, they've always feared us specifically. The swarm avoided human space because we nearly destroyed them in the old wars. They only attack the Coalition now because they thought we were extinct." "They thought wrong," said coldly. The team pushed deeper. The fighting was brutal. Swarm creatures came in waves, endless, relentless. Human soldiers fell wounded, worked frantically, treating injuries while dodging enemy fire. Took a hit, bioacid splashed across his chest armor, eating through it. He screamed and fell. Was there instantly, pulling him to cover, treating the burns. "Stay with me, stay with me." "I'm okay," gasped. "Keep going, complete the mission." They reached the central chamber. The hive mind was there, a massive organic computer made of living tissue, pulsing with alien intelligence. Set up the singularity bomb while the others held off attacking swarm forces. "How long?" Minu shouted over the sound of gunfire. 5 minutes to arm it," replied. "Then we need to get to minimum safe distance before it detonates." They fought for those 5 minutes. It felt like hours. Ammunition ran low. Weapon overheated. Rifle jammed. They switched to blades, to hand-to-hand combat, to anything they could use. Minu found himself back-to-back with, surrounded by swarm warriors. His plasma blades glowed bright in the darkness. "Remember when this mission seemed like a bad idea?" he asked. "It still is," replied, cutting down another creature. "But we're doing it anyway." "That's very human of us," Minu said. "Bomb is armed," shouted. "We have 4 minutes to get out." The team ran. Wounded soldiers helped each other. Nobody was left behind. They fought their way back through the corridors, swarm creatures pursuing them. His team met them at the exit. "Transport ships aren't coming back," she reported. "Too much damage, we're trapped." The words hung in the air. Trapped, with a singularity bomb counting down, in an environment that was slowly killing them. Wounded and exhausted, looked at Minu. "Sir, we knew this was a one-way mission." Minu's jaw tightened. "No, we're all getting out." "How?" demanded. Suddenly laughed. It was a crazy sound in the chaos. "I have an idea. It's completely insane and will probably kill us all." "Better than definitely dying," said. Explained rapidly. The singularity bomb would create a black hole for exactly 4.7 seconds before full detonation. If they could reprogram it, They could create a micro-wormhole during that window, a doorway to jump through. The chances of survival are tiny, admitted, and someone has to stay behind to manually trigger it at the exact right moment. Silence fell over the team. They all understood. Someone had to die so the others could live. Minyu stepped forward. "I'll stay." "No," said immediately. Her voice was hard. "I outrank you on this mission, Captain. I'm the actual mission commander. That was always the plan." Minyu stared at her. "That's an order," said. She smiled, sad and gentle. "You taught us to fight, Minyu, but you also taught us to sacrifice. Now let me do what humans do best." "We can draw lots," Minyu said desperately. "We can." 2 minutes, warned. Grabbed Minyu's arm, pulled him close. "Tell them I didn't hesitate. Tell them I walked into the fire willingly. Make them understand what humans are." Before Minyu could respond, pushed him toward the shelter that had prepared. She sealed the door from outside, locking herself out with the bomb. "No," Minyu pounded on the door. "Open this door, that's an order." Through the small window, smiled at him one last time. "Goodbye, Captain. Win this war for me." The bomb detonated. Reality tore apart. A singularity formed, crushing the nexus, the swarm, everything. For one perfect moment, stood in the heart of a newborn black hole, her hand on the manual trigger. Then the wormhole opened. The shelter, with Minyu's team inside, was pulled through impossible space, thrown across the galaxy, and ejected near the Coalition flagship. Behind them, the burning reach collapsed. The swarm nexus was gone, was gone. Inside the shelter, Minyu screamed. The Coalition flagship's medical bay was chaos. 49 human soldiers lay on beds, burned by radiation, wounded by combat, traumatized by what they had survived. Doctors from 6 species worked frantically to save them. Captain Minyu sat alone in a corner, staring at nothing. His hands shook. He had screamed himself hoarse. Now he was just empty. Commander found him there 3 hours later. She sat beside him in silence. What could she say? The humans had destroyed the swarm nexus. They had saved the galaxy, but Lieutenant was gone. "The swarm is dying," said finally. "Without the nexus, their forces across all sectors are going dark, leaderless, confused. We're pushing them back on every front." Minyu said nothing. "She saved us all," continued. "Sacrifice will be remembered forever." "I don't want her remembered," Minyu said, his voice broken. "I want her alive." Had no answer to that. Across the ship, the other survivors dealt with their grief in different ways. His chest bandaged and healing, sat with young alien soldiers, teaching them what had taught him. Maintained his weapons obsessively, needing something to do with his hands. Cried while treating patients, her tears falling on alien and human wounded alike. Buried himself in data, analyzing what he'd learned from the swarm systems. Stood at an observation window, her rifle at her side, staring at the stars. Wrote a report on sacrifice, his hands shaking as he typed. Trained harder than ever, pushing herself until she collapsed. Sat in the engineering bay, staring at the remains of his equipment. His crazy plan had worked. The wormhole had saved them, but the cost haunted him. "I should have found another way," he muttered to himself. "Should have been smarter." Days passed. The war turned. Without the nexus, the swarm forces fought mindlessly without coordination. Coalition fleets, trained in human tactics, crushed them systematically. World after world was liberated. The tide had finally turned. But victory felt hollow. 2 weeks after the mission, Minyu finally stood. He walked to the command center where his team had gathered. They looked up at him with grief-shadowed eyes. "Lieutenant gave her life so we could win," Minyu said quietly. "She walked into the fire so the rest of us could live. That's what humans do. That's who we are." He took a breath. "Now we honor her by finishing this war, by making sure her sacrifice meant something." Stood first, for. The others rose, for they echoed. Minyu led what remained of the 203rd back into battle. They fought with a fury that terrified even their allies. Every swarm force they encountered was destroyed without mercy. Word spread among alien forces. Don't get between the humans and the swarm. The humans fought like demons now, haunted and deadly. The war lasted another 6 months, but the outcome was never in doubt. The swarm, without their nexus, without their coordination, fell apart. Human-trained coalition forces hunted them through 100 star systems. No quarter was given, no mercy shown. When the last swarm hive ship was destroyed, the galaxy erupted in celebration. Billions of lives had been saved, hundreds of worlds liberated. The greatest threat the coalition had ever faced was gone. But in the human barracks there was no celebration. Minyu sat at a table with his team, raising a glass. "To the fallen," he said. To every human who gave their life in this war." They replied. The coalition wanted to give them medals. Minyu refused. "We didn't do this for medals. We did it because it needed to be done." Commander came to him with a different request. "Captain, the coalition wants humanity to join us officially, not as legends or myths but as full members. We want to learn from you, to fight beside you, to build a future together." Minyu looked at her for a long moment. "We've been isolated for 400 years. We had our reasons. The galaxy forgot us, dismissed us, called us myths." "We were wrong," said simply. "Will you forgive us?" Minyu smiled, tired but genuine. "Humans are good at forgiveness. It's fighting we're great at, but forgiveness we can manage." Ambassador worked tirelessly over the next months, negotiating humanity's entry into the coalition. It was historic, the first new member species in 2 centuries. But more than that, it was a partnership. Humans would train coalition forces, share their tactical knowledge, stand together against future threats. Was offered a position at the coalition military academy. He accepted, becoming the youngest instructor in their history. He taught young aliens about human combat doctrine, always ending his lectures with the same words. "A human name taught me everything I know. She walked into the fire so we could win. Never forget that." And formed the first joint human-alien combat unit. They combined human ferocity with alien technology, creating something new and powerful. Other species began requesting assignment to these units, seeing them as elite. Joined coalition intelligence, using what he'd learned from the swarm systems to develop new defenses. "The swarm might return someday," he said. "We need to be ready." Became a legend among coalition snipers. Young soldiers from a dozen species came to learn from her. She taught them precision, patience, and the importance of one perfect shot. Psychological warfare techniques were studied across the coalition. His methods were considered radical, sometimes disturbing, but undeniably effective. Led covert operations, training the coalition's first true special forces units. She was a ghost, appearing where needed, teaching others to move through shadows. Became the coalition's foremost demolitions expert, though his methods gave commanders heart attacks. "Sometimes you need a crazy idea," he'd say. Believed in crazy ideas. And Minyu retired. He returned to Earth, to a small house in the mountains, far from the wars and the stars. He spent his days in quiet contemplation, haunted by memories of fire and blood and friends lost. But the galaxy didn't forget him. Young soldiers made pilgrimages to his home, asking for wisdom. He always welcomed them, always shared what he knew, always ended with the same lesson. Humans don't fight because we're strong. We fight because someone needs protecting. Never forget why you're holding that weapon. 5 years after the war, the coalition erected a memorial. It stood on the moon of a liberated world, visible from space. The monument was simple, a stone wall with names carved into it. Every human who had died in the swarm war's name was at the top. Below the names, a single line: "They stepped into the fire." Minyu attended the unveiling. He stood with his old team, all of them older now, marked by time and memory. Young wasn't so young anymore. His hair had gone gray, moved slower, but their eyes still burned with that same determination. An alien cadet approached Minyu nervously. "Sir, I've studied all the records of the war. I want to understand. How did you do it? How did humans defeat the swarm when we couldn't?" Minyu looked at the young soldier. "We didn't defeat them because we were stronger. We defeated them because we cared more, because we were willing to sacrifice everything for each other. That's the secret. That's what makes humans dangerous." "Is it true what they say," the cadet asked, "that humans walk through fire?" Minyu glanced at its name on the memorial. "Every day," he said quietly. "We walk through fire every day, because someone always needs us to." That night Minyu stood alone before the memorial. He placed a photo its name, their team, all together, smiling before the last mission. "We won," he told her. "The galaxy is safe. Humanity has a place among the stars again. It cost us everything, but we won." The wind blew cold. The stars shone bright. "I miss you," Minyu said. "Every day I miss you, but I understand now. You didn't die for nothing. You showed them what humans really are, not myths, not legends, just people willing to do whatever it takes." He saluted her name one last time, then walked away. Behind him the memorial stood eternal, a reminder that humans had returned to the galaxy, that when the darkness came, when hope was lost, when extinction threatened, humans had stepped forward. They had stepped into the fire, and they had saved everyone. Years passed, decades. The swarm never returned. Peace held. The coalition grew stronger, united by the lessons learned during the war. Human methods were taught in every military academy. Human values shaped coalition policy. New generations grew up hearing stories of the Terran 203rd, of Captain Minyu who led them, of Lieutenant who sacrificed everything, of the 50 humans who went into the burning reach and 49 who came back. The stories spread. Children of a dozen species played games pretending to be human soldiers. "I'm Minyu," one would shout. "I'm," another would cry, "always the bravest." And sometimes, when new recruits asked if humans were really as fierce as the legend said, their instructors would smile and point to the sky. "Go ask them yourself," they'd say, "but be respectful. Humans are kind until you threaten what they love, then they become something else entirely." The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans weren't myths. They weren't legends from a forgotten age. They were guardians, warriors, protectors. They were the ones who stepped into the fire, so others didn't have to. And legends like that never truly die. They just wait ready for the next time the galaxy needs them. Because that's what humans do.